My son said, "Don't worry about the lawyer." That's exactly when I started to. He said it so casually, like asking me to pass the salt. We were sitting in his car, a new black Lincoln I helped pay for, just outside the county clerk's office. I was holding a manila envelope, my name typed neatly on the corner. Didn't even know what was inside yet, and he was already easing the guilt off my shoulders with a smile. "Just sign, Mom. It's all standard. You trust me, don't you?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at his hands. Strong, thick-knuckled, the same ones I used to scrub with soap when he came in covered in mud from the garden. He'd been a tender boy, quiet, even shy. Somewhere along the line, that softness turned into smoothness, the kind you don't notice until it's too late. "I just want to know what I'm signing, Tyler," I said. My voice was steady, not harsh. I've never been one for shouting. He laughed, that too easy kind of laugh that doesn't reach the eyes. "It's just paperwork. The lawyer already explained it to me. It's for the trust." "What trust?" "You know, to make things easier later, for the house. Your will." "All of that." He waved a hand, like he was brushing cobwebs off the air. I looked out the window. A young couple was pushing a stroller past us. The woman smiled, then caught herself, unsure if two people in a parked car meant trouble. I smiled back. I've always been good at pretending I'm not in the middle of something. Tyler handed me a pen. "Seriously, Mom, don't worry about the lawyer. He said everything's in place. We just need your signature to finalize it." That was when something inside me, something small and sharp, stirred. Don't worry about the lawyer. I'm a 78-year-old widow. I've never had much, but what I have, I earned. I learned how to do books for our little hardware store back in the 70s. I filed taxes, paid bills, kept ledgers clean enough for the IRS to send me polite letters. I buried my husband on a Tuesday and reopened the store that Friday. Not because I'm heartless, but because the world doesn't pause for mourning women. So yes, I worry about the lawyer. I didn't sign. I smiled and said, "Let me sleep on it." Tyler's face twitched, just slightly, like someone pulled a thread in his jaw. "Sure, of course, Mom. It's your call." He kissed me on the cheek and drove me home. My little house sat there like it always had, square and steady, with the same cracked porch step Tyler always said he'd fix. I walked inside and set the envelope on the kitchen table. Boiled water for tea. Sat down. Listened to the quiet. And then I opened the envelope. That's when the shaking started. Not in my hands. In my gut. In that place where instinct lives. The papers were clean, well formatted, full of legal words that sounded soft, but meant something sharp. Transfer of authority. Durable power. Revocable only by court order. And there, in bold, my name, followed by Tyler's, and a line that said he would have full control over financial and property-related decisions in the event I was deemed incapacitated or otherwise unfit. Unfit. That word sat in my throat like a stone. I made myself a list, a short one. Call Nancy. Check title on the house. Find original will. Call James, the lawyer. It was almost funny how quickly my brain switched back into business mode, like I was back in the store, counting boxes of nails, double-checking supplier forms. But this wasn't about inventory. This was about my life. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my old recliner with a blanket and a yellow notepad, writing down everything I could remember from the past few months. The strange calls, the bank mail Tyler insisted on opening for me, the time he mentioned streamlining assets, and I'd nodded, half listening. How he'd taken over my passwords, For convenience. Convenient, all right. Morning came. The sky was the color of dishwater, and the wind pulled the branches like they owed it something. I watched from the window with my tea in hand, same cup I'd used since 1982. I thought of Tyler's words again. Don't worry about the lawyer. That's when I knew I was going to call one, and not the one he recommended. The house felt colder that morning, though the thermostat still blinked at 72. Maybe it was just me. I didn't turn on the news, didn't bother with my usual toast. Instead, I pulled out the red leather binder from the cabinet near the fridge, the one labeled House and Legal. I hadn't touched it in over a year. Inside were neatly filed documents, utility bills, tax returns, my husband David's death certificate, and the deed to the house, or what I thought was the deed. I looked closer. The most recent copy was dated 6 years ago, just after the shingles on the roof were replaced. My name was there, clean and simple. Maybelline R. Hargreaves, sole owner. But then I remembered something. Last summer, Tyler had taken me to lunch and mentioned a title update to protect me from scammers. Said it was just a legal cleanup, nothing big. I'd signed something that afternoon. I couldn't even recall what it was. He'd handed me a packet in the car, said we'd run out of time for the notary, so he'd take care of it later. My stomach tightened. I put the binder aside and picked up the phone. Nancy McDowell was still in my book club, even if I hadn't gone in 3 months. She worked part-time at the county records office and always said I could call her if I ever needed to double-check on something boring and legal. Hey, Nancy, it's May. I know it's early. Girl, please. I've been up since 5. What's going on? I told her I needed to confirm a property record. Just a routine check, I said. I could hear her clicking away on a keyboard. Address? I gave it. There was a pause, longer than it should have been. May, she said slowly. Your name's not the only one on this title. I didn't speak. I just waited. It says the property is jointly owned. Maybelline Hargreaves and Tyler Hargreaves. When was that added? Last July. Looks like a new deed was filed with updated language, signed by you or someone with your signature, and notarized. The room tilted slightly, but I kept my voice calm. Thanks, Nancy. That's all I needed. I hung up and sat very still. The quiet of the house settled over me like a heavy coat. There was no panic, just a hardening, like wet cement starting to dry. I made 2 more calls. The first was to the office of James B. Keaton, the lawyer David and I had used for years. A serious man, but fair. The kind who wore the same suit for 20 years and still charged by the hour instead of the outcome. His receptionist, a cheerful woman named Dana, said he had an opening the next afternoon. The second call was to Tyler. Hey, Mom, he said, all breezy charm. Sleep on it like you planned? I did, I said. And I have a few questions. There was a pause, then his voice dipped. Questions about what? About what I've signed, and what I haven't. I called the records office this morning. Dead silence. Mom, he said eventually. I was going to explain all that. I didn't want to overwhelm you. Tyler, I said gently. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm insulted. His voice rose a notch. Look, I didn't do anything shady. I just put myself on the deed so that when the time comes, things won't be a mess. You don't want the state getting involved, do you? I see, I said. And that durable power of attorney, the trust, the healthcare proxy you slipped into the middle of those pages? I was just trying to protect you. No, Tyler. You were trying to control me. He didn't answer that. I could hear him breathing. I'm seeing a lawyer tomorrow, I said, and I'll be taking back control of everything with my name on it. His voice dropped low, the way it used to when he was 10 and cornered. You don't have to make this into a thing, Mom. It already is a thing, I said. And I'm handling it. I hung up without saying goodbye. Then I poured myself a cup of coffee. Real strong. Drank it black. Sat at the table with my checkbook and a fresh yellow pad. Every monthly bill, every auto draft Tyler had set up to help. I wrote them down. Then I called the bank. Yes, I'd like to remove online access for a secondary user. Yes, the name is Tyler Hargreaves. The woman on the line paused. Is there a reason for the request? There is, I said, but it's personal. Understood. When that was done, I leaned back in my chair and listened to the old clock ticking above the stove. It used to belong to David's parents. Hasn't worked right in 20 years, but I can't bring myself to take it down. People think old women are easy, that we forget things, that we're afraid of paperwork, of confrontation, of speaking plainly. They forget we've already buried husbands, survived wars, recessions, bad presidents, broken hips, and adult children with selective memories. We're not afraid. We're just patient. And my patience, finally, was wearing thin. I've never liked lawyers, to be honest. Not because I think they're crooked, though some are, but because they talk like they're trying to win a game you didn't know you were playing. But James Keaton wasn't like that. He was David's friend long before he became our attorney. We'd all gone to the same church once, back when my knees still let me climb the steps without cursing under my breath. James had a quiet way about him. Never rushed. Never made me feel like I needed a dictionary to understand my own affairs. So when I walked into his office that Thursday afternoon, I felt a strange kind of calm. The kind that settles in when you finally stop pretending nothing's wrong. He stood up when he saw me, still tall, though a little stooped. His beard was grayer than I remembered. May, he said warmly. It's been too long. I sat down and handed him the envelope I'd brought. Tyler had me sign something last summer. I'd like to know exactly what it was. He didn't open it right away, just looked at me for a long moment. What made you start asking questions? I took a breath. He told me not to worry about the lawyer. James chuckled, not a laugh, more like a puff of breath through the nose. Well, that would do it. He read through the papers slowly. I watched his eyes move line by line, his brow furrowing in places. When he reached the durable power of attorney, he paused. Did you understand you were giving Tyler control over all financial decisions? Effective immediately? No, I said. I thought it was just in case something happened to me. It's not written that way. There's no contingency. This gives him access now. I clenched my hands in my lap. And this deed, it does add him as a co-owner. Legally, he can sell the property without your consent if he presents this along with the power of attorney. So I could lose my house? You could, he said carefully, but only if he wanted to. And from the look on your face, I'm guessing you're not so sure he doesn't. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. James leaned back in his chair. We can challenge it. It won't be easy, but it's possible. We'll need to prove you signed under false pretenses or without full understanding. I didn't know what I was signing. Then that's where we start. He slid a clean sheet of paper across the desk. Write down everything, every conversation, every document, anything you can remember, and bring me the originals you still have. I have most of them. Tyler likes to keep things in his files, but I've got my own copies. I'm old, not stupid. James smiled. That'll help. After I left his office, I didn't go straight home. I took a detour, drove past the lot where our old store used to stand. Hargreaves Hardware. The sign's gone now, of course. Some chain pharmacy bought the place and put up glass walls and neon lights, but I still remember the way it used to smell. Wood shavings and oil, floor cleaner and winter coats. David built those shelves with his own hands. We opened the store the year Tyler turned 6. That boy used to sit behind the counter with a pencil and a ledger book, copying numbers just to feel important. He was always watching us, always listening, absorbing everything. I wonder when he stopped seeing what we built as a life and started seeing it as a resource. After David died, the store was mine alone for nearly 8 years. I ran it until my knees couldn't handle the concrete floors and my back ached from stocking light bulbs and buckets. When I finally sold it, I told Tyler he could take some time off, figure out what he wanted to do next. I gave him the money for a real estate license, paid for his first car under his own name, paid off his credit cards when his second wife left, and took the dog and the furniture. He always said thank you, but he never said he'd pay me back. I didn't ask. Mothers don't ask. That's the curse of it. We give and wait for the day our children will remember we were people before we were mom. Back home, I pulled out my files and got to work. It wasn't hard. I'd kept records of everything. Old habits die hard. I listed every time Tyler had asked me to streamline a bill or transfer something for ease. The car insurance, the bank account I let him co-sign, the little notes he wrote in big round letters like I was too old to read regular print. That night, I slept with the bedroom door locked. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed to feel like something was mine and mine alone. In the morning, the phone rang. It was Tyler. Hey, Mom, everything okay? You haven't called? I didn't tell him I'd seen James. I didn't tell him I knew everything. Instead, I said, I'm thinking of doing some reorganizing, cleaning up old files. I may need some of my documents back. He hesitated. Sure, of course. Just let me know which ones. I'll come get them. Why don't I just bring them? No, I said softly. I'd like to handle it myself. Another pause. You're mad. I'm busy, I said. We'll talk soon. I hung up and stared at the quiet room. It's a strange thing, losing trust in your own child. Like realizing your favorite chair has a crack you never noticed. You still want to sit in it. But now, you check it twice before you do. And that's what I was doing now. Checking everything. Twice. I didn't go to church that Sunday. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a stack of folders and the little black planner I hadn't used since 2019. The one with the ribbon bookmark and the ink-stained corners. I flipped through old appointments, reminders scribbled in my own handwriting, Tyler's mortgage draft, review, call accountant, verify POA, meet with bank rep about joint account. Back then, I'd still believed those meetings were part of something mutual, a shared project between mother and son. I didn't see them for what they were, a slow erosion of boundaries, one form at a time. Tyler never asked for full control. He just chipped away at the edges. The Sunday morning light was soft, like it didn't want to intrude. The only sounds were the occasional crow outside and the ticking of the stove clock. I don't know why, but I reached for the small jewelry box on the sideboard. It was my mother's once. Inside were a few old things, a cameo brooch, David's wedding band, and a safety deposit box key. I hadn't opened that box in years. Back when David was alive, we kept copies of our most important papers there: marriage license, house title, insurance documents. The original will, too. The one we wrote together when Tyler was still in high school. It was a modest will, but it was ours, and it named me sole executor until my death. No secondary control, no handovers. I'd never revoked it, which meant, technically, it still stood. Unless Tyler had created something more recent and managed to get me to sign it without knowing. That thought sent a cold ripple down my back. I dressed quickly, grabbed my bag, and drove straight to the bank. I didn't even call ahead. Just walked in like I had every right to, because I did. The young woman at the front desk looked up, startled. "Good morning. Can I help you?" "I need to access my deposit box, number 118. "Of course. Do you have your key and ID? I handed them over. A few minutes later, I was in a small gray room with a metal drawer in front of me. The box slid out with a satisfying weight. Inside was everything I remembered, and something I didn't. There, between the original will and our old tax files, was a fresh envelope, my name written on the front in Tyler's handwriting. I opened it with slow fingers. Inside were photocopies of the new deed, the power of attorney. A second will, typed, dated just 2 months ago. It looked official. My signature was there, but I had no memory of signing it, and it was completely different. In this version, Tyler was not just the primary beneficiary. He was executor, property trustee, financial agent, and healthcare proxy. The language was clean and sharp. I'd be moved to appropriate care facilities should I become mentally compromised or physically dependent. All decisions would be his. No oversight. And it was witnessed. By 2 names I didn't recognize. I sat there for a full 5 minutes before I could even move. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a plan. I returned the envelope, locked the box, and walked back into the sunlight like nothing had happened. The girl at the counter smiled at me on the way out. I smiled back. I'm good at that. Smiling when I need to. Back home, I called James. "I need you to see something," I said. "It's urgent." He cleared his afternoon and told me to come right in. When I laid the documents out on his desk, his expression changed from curious to cold. "Do you remember signing this second will?" he asked. "No." "These witnesses, do they sound familiar?" "Not even a little." He leaned back, frowning. "May, this is serious. If these were presented in probate and you were no longer able to object, this would stand. Your house, your accounts, your freedom, all in his hands." I nodded, calm. "I need to revoke everything," I said. "Every power, every authorization, and I want to reinstate the original will. If I need a medical evaluation to prove I'm competent, I'll get one." "You're not only competent, you're sharp," he said. "But yes, we'll document it anyway." Just to be safe. We spent the next hour drafting revocations, new directives, and instructions to restore full control of my estate to me. And only me. James called a notary from down the hall. She watched me sign every page. Her name was Rachel. She looked like she was barely out of college. As I signed the last paper, she said, "You remind me of my grandmother." "Is she stubborn too?" "No," she said with a smile. "But I wish she was." I left the office with the paperwork in a fresh folder, labeled in bold ink. Legal. Current. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Until 3:47 a.m., when I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. A text from Tyler. "Hey, you've been busy. Got an alert from the bank. What's going on?" No, "Hi, Mom." No, "Everything okay?" just that edge of suspicion, like a man who realizes someone moved the chessboard when he wasn't looking. I didn't answer. I just turned the phone face down and listened to the silence. That boy of mine thought he'd covered all his tracks. Thought I'd nod and sign and shuffle quietly toward the corner he made for me. But he forgot one thing. I built my life from scratch. I ran a business. I buried a husband. I raised a child on grit and half-empty cupboards, and I never signed anything I didn't read. Not really. He thought I'd sleep through my own disappearance. He was wrong. He came by unannounced the next day. Didn't even text first. Just pulled into the driveway like he used to when he was a teenager, coming home with a D on his report card, hoping that if he moved fast enough, I wouldn't have time to be mad. I saw the black Lincoln before I heard the doorbell. He rang twice. Not the usual short ring either. Long, expectant. I opened the door slowly, not smiling. "Morning, Mom," he said. Too cheerful. He was holding a bakery bag. 2 scones and that cinnamon butter I used to love. The kind of peace offering a son brings when he wants something, but hasn't figured out how to ask for it. "You want coffee?" I asked. He looked surprised. Maybe he thought I'd slam the door or start shouting. He should have known better by now. We sat in the kitchen, him fidgeting with the butter packet, me stirring my cup like it held secrets. "So," he said finally, "you've been handling some things?" "I have. Revoking authorizations, updating wills." "I thought you didn't want me to worry about the lawyer." That got him. His mouth tightened at the corners. "Look," he said, "I know how it looks. Looks pretty clear to me. I didn't mean for it to feel like I was taking over. But you were." He didn't deny it. Instead, he leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Mom, I was trying to prepare. That's all. Just in case." "In case of what?" "In case something happens to you." His voice was low now. Practiced. I recognized it. It was the tone he used in his real estate videos, the one that made strangers sign mortgages they didn't fully understand. "You're not exactly young anymore," he added, almost kindly. "And that gives you the right to forge my will?" He froze. "Excuse me?" "The new will, Tyler. The one I never signed. The one with witnesses I've never met. That's not... I didn't forge anything." "Then explain it to me." He opened his mouth. Closed it. Looked at the counter like the salt shaker might give him a better answer. "You must have forgotten," he said at last. I laughed, short and sharp. "I may forget what I came into a room for, but I don't forget signing away my life." "Mom, don't do this. Too late. I've already done it." He rubbed his forehead like I was giving him a headache. "You've always overreacted when things get uncomfortable." That stung more than I expected. Uncomfortable? Is that what he called the way he'd rewritten my future without telling me? He stood up, pacing now, his voice rising. "You know what? Maybe I made some mistakes. Maybe I pushed too far. But I've been the only one looking out for you. I paid your bills when you were sick last winter. You used my money. I managed your taxes. You filed deductions under your name. I checked on you. When it was convenient." He stopped, exhaled, turned back toward me. "Fine. You want control? Take it. But don't come crawling back when you need help." I stood up too. "Tyler," I said, calm as I could, "I don't want your help. I want my life. And I'm taking it back." He stared at me like he didn't recognize who I was, like the woman in front of him wasn't the same one who'd once stayed up 3 nights straight, nursing him through the flu. The same one who sold David's tools one by one to pay his college tuition. The same one who sat in the back row of his first home closing, clapping quietly while he shook hands and took credit. He didn't see her anymore. He saw a complication, a liability, and now, a threat. He left without another word. Didn't even take the scones. The silence after he drove off was thick. I stood in the doorway for a long time, one hand resting on the frame like the wood could hold me up. Then I closed the door and locked it. It wasn't just about the papers anymore, or the house, or the money. It was about the fact that somewhere along the road from child to man, my son had stopped seeing me as a person. I became a means to an end, a set of assets, a signature. And that I couldn't forgive. I made a new list that night, not on a yellow pad this time, but in my head. Change locks, move accounts, remove access, finish the new will. I was steady, focused. No crying, no shaking. There's a point in a woman's life when she stops begging to be understood, stops trying to justify why she deserves space in her own home, her own choices, her own future. That point had arrived. For me, it came with black coffee, cinnamon butter, and a forged signature. The locksmith arrived Monday afternoon, a quiet man with thinning hair and a work shirt that said Stan. He didn't ask questions, just looked at the front door, nodded once and said, "Deadbolt's old. We'll replace the whole unit." "Good," I said. "And I want the garage code changed too." He raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. By the time he was done, I had 2 new keys and a new sense of peace. I tipped him in cash and kept the second key on a new ring I bought myself at the drugstore. Silver, simple, shaped like a little pine cone. A small reminder that nothing rooted deep can be pushed over easy. Later that evening, I went to the credit union. No more online banking, no more linked accounts, no more joint access for emergencies. Tyler had logged into my finances every week for the last 3 years. He said it was to monitor recurring payments and help with budgeting. Now I saw it clearly. He'd been watching the ebb and flow like a hawk over a rabbit warren. I sat across from a young woman named Angela, patient, polite, maybe 28, and told her I wanted to move everything. All my accounts into my name alone. New cards, new passwords. No secondary users. "I'll need to see some ID," she said. I handed it over without hesitation. Maybelline Ruth Hargreaves, 78. Widow, still standing. Angela looked through the system, frowning. "It says here your son has power of attorney over this account." "Not anymore," I said. "And I have the revocation papers to prove it." I slid the folder across to her. She read carefully. When she looked up, there was something new in her expression. Not sympathy, not pity, respect. "I'll get this processed immediately," she said, "and we'll lock down all access until the update is complete. Thank you." As she typed, I watched her fingers move across the keys, fast and certain. It struck me then how strange it was to be doing this, rebuilding my financial life at nearly 80. Most women my age were downsizing, preparing for assisted living, letting go of control because they thought they had no choice. But I still had mine, and I was going to hold on to it with both hands. When I got home, I made soup. Chicken with rice. My own recipe. David used to say it cured everything from colds to heartbreak. I sat by the window, eating slowly, watching the leaves blow across the sidewalk like they were running from something. The phone rang just after 7. I let it go to voicemail. Then again at 7:30. This time I picked up. "Mom?" "Yes." "What are you doing?" "I'm having dinner." There was a pause. "I stopped by earlier," he said. Your garage code didn't work. No, it wouldn't. Did you change it? I did. He was quiet. I needed to check the furnace, he said eventually. It made a sound last time I was over. I'll call a repairman. You don't need to do that. I do, I said, because I'm not letting you in the house again without my say-so. His breath caught on the other end of the line. You're overreacting. I'm correcting. Mom, I saw the second will, Tyler. I saw the names. I saw what you tried to set up. He didn't answer. You wanted me in a care facility by the end of the year, didn't you? Still silence. I wasn't supposed to notice. You thought I'd just sign, smile, and slowly fade into the background. He finally spoke, voice tight. That's not fair. No, I said. It isn't. I hung up, not out of spite, not out of rage, but because the conversation was over. He knew I knew, and I had nothing left to explain. Afterward, I sat in the armchair by the fireplace. It hadn't been lit in 2 winters, but I liked the shape of it. Brick and brass, solid and square. Like me. I wrapped the blanket around my knees and listened to the silence. My whole life I'd told myself I was lucky. I had a roof over my head, a son who called, a car that started in the cold. I excused his distance, softened his sharpness, told myself that this was just how modern life worked. Children got busy. Sons didn't always say thank you. But this wasn't forgetfulness. This was deliberate. He wasn't drifting from me. He was steering around me, and I'd finally stopped pretending I didn't see it. In the drawer beside me was the final draft of my new will. James would file it tomorrow. It restored everything to my control. My house, my accounts, my medical decisions. And it set up something else, too. A trust for my niece's daughter, Lila. The only person in the family who visited without asking for anything. The only one who still listened when I spoke. I wasn't done yet. There were more papers to sign, more threads to untangle. But I'd taken the first real step. I'd said no. And once a woman says no, really says it, not whispers it, not explains it, not apologizes for it, the ground starts to shift beneath the feet of everyone who thought she'd never speak up. The thing they don't tell you about reclaiming your life is how quiet it gets afterward. No calls, no texts, no unexpected drop-ins. Tyler stopped trying to explain himself, and I stopped waiting for him to try. The silence wasn't peaceful at first. It was loud. The kind that echoes around the corners of a house too used to other people's footsteps. On Tuesday, the mailman paused longer than usual at my porch. I watched from behind the curtain as he placed a thick envelope gently into the box. When he drove off, I opened it. Inside was a letter from Tyler. Typed, formal, impersonal. Dear Mother, it began. Given recent events and the decisions you've made, I believe it's best if we take a step back and give each other some space. There was more, of course. Carefully chosen phrases. I only ever acted out of concern. You've always been independent. Perhaps it's time for new boundaries. Not a single word of apology. Not one sentence that acknowledged the breach, the betrayal. Just this cool little wall of words built from the language of detachment. Enclosed was a list of items he said he'd like to collect from the garage. Some tools, a few boxes, old paperwork. I folded the letter once, clean and sharp, and slid it back into the envelope. Then I dropped it into the fireplace. Didn't even light a match. Let it sit there. A neat pile of quiet that would turn to ash when I was ready. That afternoon, I took a slow walk around the backyard. The fall air was crisp, the kind that dries your lips and wakes up your lungs. David had planted the maple tree near the fence line almost 40 years ago. It was taller than the house now. Its branches stretched out like it remembered being a sapling, and was still surprised by how far it had come. I reached out, touched the trunk. The bark was rough, steady, the kind of tree you don't cut down even when it leans a little. I stood there for a long time. Then I went back inside and made a sandwich. Turkey, mustard, no lettuce. That night, I brought out the small fireproof box from the closet, the one marked private. Inside were old things: David's letters from Vietnam, Tyler's first Father's Day card to David, all crooked crayons and backward letters, a snapshot of the three of us at the lake, David holding a fishing rod, Tyler covered in sunscreen and pride. And, under all that, my mother's handwriting. A letter she'd written me before she passed. Never mailed, just left tucked in her Bible. May, she'd written. People will take what you don't guard: time, money, voice. But don't let them take your knowing, the part of you that sees clearly, even when you pretend not to. I hadn't read that in years, but it felt like she'd written it yesterday. That evening, I called James. "I want to finish the trust," I said. "And I want Lila to be the sole recipient." "You're sure?" he asked. "I'm sure." "And Tyler?" "He'll get what's already his, which is to say, nothing." James was quiet. I could hear him exhale through his nose. "All right, May. I'll draw it up." "Want to come in tomorrow?" "Yes." After the call, I stood by the window, watching the dusk turn the street purple. There were no cars in my driveway, no voices in the house, just the soft tick of the mantel clock and the occasional creak of the floorboards as they settled. It should have felt lonely, but it didn't. It felt honest. I'd spent too many years confusing company with connection, letting holiday visits and birthday cards fill the space where real affection was supposed to be. Now I was standing in the truth, and it wasn't empty. It was mine. James had the paperwork ready by the time I arrived. It was a gray Wednesday morning, the kind where the sky doesn't bother to show you where it ends. I wore my navy coat, the one with the frayed lining, and brought along a folder of documents just in case. I didn't need them. James had copies of everything. But I'd spent too long being left out of decisions. I wasn't coming unprepared to my own life anymore. He walked me through each page of the trust. Lila's name was there in clean print: beneficiary, successor, sole inheritor. There was no room for contest. James made sure of that. Everything I'd built, the house, the investments, the small sum left from the store sale, would go to someone who still saw me, not someone who saw a signature. I signed each page with a steady hand. "I'll file the documents today," James said, tapping the papers into a neat stack. "It's legally sealed once I submit." "Good. You sure you're ready for the fallout?" "I've already had it." He gave a slow nod, not pressing. Outside, the air smelled like frost. I stood beside my car for a moment, watching a squirrel dart across the sidewalk with something in its mouth. A piece of bread, maybe. It vanished under a bush without looking back. That was me now, gathering what's mine and disappearing from someone's plan. I stopped at the grocery store on the way home, bought oranges, milk, a new dish towel with tiny red birds on it. Small things that reminded me I still had a right to take up space in the world. Back home, the phone rang as I set the bags down. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. Same number. I picked up. "Mrs. Hargreaves?" a woman's voice asked. "This is Heather from Ridgeview Living Estates. Your son scheduled a tour with us for today. Just wanted to confirm your arrival time." I paused. I'm sorry? Ridgeview, she repeated, chipper. Assisted living. Your son said you were interested in downsizing and might want to see our facilities. We had you on the calendar for 2 wow. I stared at the receiver like it had grown teeth. No, I said. I won't be coming. There was a pause on her end. Oh, all right. I'm sorry for the confusion. No need to apologize. You weren't the one making plans for someone else's life. I hung up before she could say more. I sat down at the kitchen table, the oranges still in their bag, the milk sweating on the counter. He was still trying, still moving pieces around as if I weren't even there. Did he think I'd just go quietly? That if he booked the appointment, I'd step into the car like a patient, docile shadow? It hit me then. This hadn't been about protecting me. Not ever. It was about repositioning me. Out of the house. Out of his way. Into a place where nurses would manage the details and Tyler would manage the assets. Where my name would be spoken in reports, but not in conversation. I stood up, went to the sink, and ran cold water over my wrists. Breathe, May. You've come too far to lose your footing now. The next call I made was to Lila. Hey, honey, I said when she answered. Hi, Aunt May. I was just thinking of you. Were you? Yeah, actually. I'm working on a piece for class about stories we inherit. I keep thinking about the time you taught me how to patch the garden hose instead of buying a new one. I smiled, even through the tightness in my chest. You want to come over this weekend? Of course. Saturday? Saturday's perfect. After we hung up, I went back to the groceries. Washed the oranges, changed the dish towel, poured a glass of milk, sat down, and drank it slowly. I wasn't going anywhere, and if Tyler wanted to push, he'd have to do it from the outside now. I'd changed the locks, I'd closed the accounts, I'd filed the trust, and now I'd canceled his future plans without ever having to leave my kitchen. By Friday morning, the silence broke. It didn't come from Tyler directly, but from a name I hadn't heard in years. Melissa Caldwell. She was a lawyer once married to one of Tyler's old friends, though I'd always suspected she handled more than divorce papers. Too smooth, too sharp. The kind of woman who knew how to smile while slicing clean. Her name appeared in the return address of the certified letter left in my mailbox. Notice of intent. Conservatorship petition. I sat at the table, my thumb pressed hard against the envelope crease, the kettle whistling behind me. I didn't even turn it off. Inside the letter was a formal declaration. Tyler Hargreaves, concerned son, respectfully petitions the court to be named conservator of the estate and personal care of Maybelline Hargreaves, citing evidence of declining capacity and financial mismanagement. Attached were statements, out-of-context bank transactions, misrepresented quotes from voicemails I'd left months ago, notes about my isolation and erratic communication. No signatures from doctors. No diagnosis. Just Tyler, constructing a fiction and paying someone to bind it in legal thread. The petition was scheduled for review in 2 weeks. He was going to try to take everything. Again. But this time, not with a forged signature, with a courtroom. I turned off the kettle, poured the water into the sink, and let the steam rise past my face. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just reached for the phone and called James. He picked up on the second ring. May? I've received a notice, I said. He's filing for conservatorship. There was a long pause. Send it to me, immediately. I'll handle the response. Will they even look at it seriously? They'll have to if it's filed, but you're already ahead. You've got clean paperwork, recent evaluations, and documented revocations. I want to do more. He paused again. What do you have in mind? I want to make a statement, I said. On record, under oath. I want it public. I want it on file. I want him to have to look at it someday and remember exactly what I said. James didn't speak for a moment. Then, I can arrange that. We set a meeting for Monday. In the meantime, he'd begin drafting the response, the legal equivalent of a backhand. I didn't ask for the language. I trusted James to use the right words. Saturday came with the smell of rain and the soft tread of Lila's boots on my porch. She brought flowers, sunflowers, big and brazen, and a loaf of lemon bread she said she made from scratch, though I spotted the store-bought wrapper peeking out of her bag. We sat in the living room, legs tucked under us, like the old days. There's something I want to tell you, I said. Okay, she said, wiping crumbs from her fingers. I changed my will. She blinked. I didn't leave anything to your uncle. Her face didn't change. I left it all to you. Her mouth opened slightly, closed again. Aunt May, Why? Because you never asked for anything. You came to see me. You helped without hinting. You stayed after everyone else left. I didn't expect. I know. That's why. She was quiet for a long time. Is it bad? She asked finally. With him? It's dishonest, I said, and deliberate. She nodded slowly. I always felt something off when he talked about you. Like you were a tax bracket, not a person. I smiled at that. That's exactly it. We drank tea and played cards. The rain picked up, drumming the roof in slow rhythm. Lila stayed until the sun dipped low and the streetlights flickered on. As she left, she hugged me tighter than usual. Tell me what you need, okay? I will, I said. But not yet. After she left, I walked through the house slowly, touched the frames on the walls, the corners of the furniture, the handle of the back door. My name was still on every light switch, every drawer. Tyler wanted a judge to take that away, but I'd seen enough judges in my life to know they don't just listen to words. They look at the woman behind them, and I was going to make sure she stood tall. He didn't knock this time. Just stood at the edge of the driveway, arms crossed, like someone waiting for a delivery that's taking too long. I saw him through the lace curtain, the same one he once said made the house look like a place where time forgot. I opened the door but didn't step outside. You're not welcome here right now, Tyler. He took a breath. Exhaled slowly, theatrically, like a man who'd practiced staying calm in front of difficult clients. I didn't want to do it this way, he said. Yes, you did. He shook his head. You're not thinking clearly. You're being manipulated. By whom? That lawyer, he said. That girl, the niece. You mean the people who didn't forge my name? He looked away, jaw tight. I was trying to protect you. No, you were trying to manage me like property. Mom, you filed for conservatorship. He opened his mouth, closed it again. I had to. You changed everything, shut me out. Because you were never invited in. You walked in. That house is part mine. Not anymore. I added my name to the deed, illegally. His voice rose then, cracking at the edges. You're going to let some lawyer twist everything I've done? No one twisted anything, Tyler. I read every page. I saw every signature. I remember every word you didn't say when you were asking me to trust you. I was trying to help. Then why did you hide it? We stood there in silence, the fall wind tugging at my sleeves. He looked older than I remembered, not tired, cornered. You told Ridgeview I'd be touring their facility. He flinched. They called to confirm. I wasn't even supposed to know until we got there, was I? Mom, you were going to walk me through the door and let them tell me. He didn't deny it. I stepped out, closed the door behind me. I filed a new trust. I revoked everything. The house is mine. The accounts are mine. My future is mine. You can't just erase me. I'm not erasing you, I said. You did that yourself. He looked at the ground, then back at me. I didn't think you'd fight. I nodded. That's the problem. You never thought I would. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out a folded letter. James's response to the conservatorship petition. I'm not just fighting, Tyler. I'm winning. He took it, but didn't open it. Just held it like it was burning his hand. You raised me better than this, he said quietly. I looked at him, long and steady. No, I said. I raised you. What you did with that is your choice. The words hung there between us. He turned without a word and walked back to his car. Didn't slam the door, didn't speed off. He just drove away. And this time, I didn't watch him go. Inside, the kettle had started to whistle. I took it off the burner, poured a cup, and sat at the kitchen table. The quiet didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt earned. I thought of David then, how he used to tell me, no one knows your full strength until they try to push past it. They don't expect women like me to push back. They expect politeness, resignation, quiet surrender behind lace curtains and polite smiles. But I still remembered how to lock a door, and how to say no, and now, how to say enough. The morning after, I didn't open the curtains, not out of fear, just to hold the stillness a little longer. There's a kind of quiet that comes after the fight is over, not peace, not yet, but a breath. A room left untouched, a cup left half full. I walked through the house in socks, not rushing anywhere, touching walls, frames, books, everything still in its place. Nothing taken, but I felt what was missing. Something heavy had been pulled out of the room, not just Tyler's presence, but the years of weight I'd carried for him. The justifying, the excusing, the soft tucking away of pain so that no one would call it what it was. I'd spent decades swallowing little hurts like pills. Every time he forgot a birthday. Every time he dismissed my worry with a joke. Every time he waved off my questions and said, "You don't need to worry about that, Mom." And now, with one petition, he'd made it clear. I wasn't supposed to worry because he wanted me out of the way. I stood by the sink, watching condensation roll down the glass. I thought of calling someone. Nancy, maybe, or one of the old church ladies. But what would I say? That my son tried to erase me? That I caught him? That now, with everything back in my hands, I didn't know what to do with the rest of the day. I made oatmeal, ate it slowly, one bite at a time. The silence wasn't bad. It just felt unfamiliar, like wearing someone else's coat, warm but strange in the sleeves. I kept waiting for grief to come, for the heartbreak everyone warned about. When family betrays you, it'll crush you. But it didn't crush me. It clarified me. I missed the boy I once raised, the one who kissed my cheek without being asked, the one who used to ask me to sit by his bed when he was scared of thunder. But I did not miss the man who forged my signature and called it love. I pulled out my address book, the one I hadn't touched in months, and flipped through the pages. So many names crossed out. So many people gone. Moved away. Moved on. Buried. But there were a few still circled. I called Marion first. She picked up on the second ring. May? Lord, it's been forever. We talked for nearly an hour. Nothing deep, the kind of catch-up that knits silence back into thread. She told me her daughter was pregnant again. I told her about the sunflowers from Lila. I didn't tell her about Tyler. That story was still mine, still raw. Later, I sat in the sunroom and opened the folder from James, read every page of the new trust again, not because I doubted it, but because I needed to see, in black and white, that my name was still mine. Every clause, every account, every decision, mine. There was a strange kind of grief in that, too, because even though I'd won, I knew something had ended. Not the relationship. That ended the moment he looked at me like an obstacle. What ended was the illusion that he'd protect me, that I could lean on him in the end. That's the part no one warns you about. Not the betrayal itself, but the realization that the person you raised isn't coming back. That he exists only in photographs now, in memories that feel like someone else's movie. But I also knew this. I was not alone. I had myself. And I had the truth. Not the kind people shout across courtrooms or print in letters with legal seals. The quiet kind. The kind that lets you sleep at night. The kind that can't be taken. Only recognized. The following week passed like a long exhale. No letters, no visits, no more petitions. James called to say the court had reviewed Tyler's filing and rejected it outright. Lack of medical evidence, conflicting documentation, and, as the clerk had apparently put it, an unusual level of preemptive control for someone of sound mind. Not their usual phrasing, James had said with a smile in his voice, but I'll take it. So would I. I didn't call Tyler. He didn't call me. It wasn't a standoff. It was a completion. There was nothing left to clarify. The air in the house had changed. It no longer felt like I was holding my breath. The doors felt heavier in my hand, real, solid, because I knew I'd locked them myself. Not to keep someone out, but to keep something in. My say, my time, my name. On Thursday, I opened a drawer I hadn't touched in years, the one where I kept the old stationeries. I used to write letters, real ones, folded in thirds, sealed with soft glue, addressed by hand. I picked out a pale blue sheet and sat at the kitchen table. I didn't write to Tyler. I wrote to myself. May, you did it. You saw what they didn't think you'd see. You stood up when it would have been easier to sit back. You remembered who you were, and that remembering saved everything. Not the house, not the money, not even the legacy. It saved your voice. I signed it, folded it, slid it into a book I'd been meaning to reread. The Country of Old Men. A strange title, now that I thought about it. Because this life, this moment, felt like a woman's country. And it was mine now. I took walks again, down the block, around the park, past the little library someone built out of an old mailbox. I even left a book there, a novel about a woman who left her family and started a bakery in Maine. When I checked back a week later, it was gone. That made me smile. Lila came by on Sunday, brought chili this time, real homemade, with beans and cornbread on the side. I got a B+ on my paper, she said, the one about inherited stories. Good. My professor wants to interview you. I blinked. Me? She says your story is relevant and underrepresented. I told her you weren't exactly looking for an audience. I'm not. But she's nice, Lila said. Smart, and she said she'd bring cookies. I laughed. A real one, short and low. I'll think about it. Lila didn't push, just nodded, then cleared the plates without being asked. After she left, I stood in the doorway, the one Tyler once tried to walk through with papers in his hand and a lie in his voice. Now, it was just quiet, not empty, open. That night, I made tea, not for comfort, just because I wanted it. I didn't think about what Tyler might do next. I didn't plan for another move, another betrayal. I had the paperwork. I had the protection. More than that, I had the clarity. Whatever came, I could meet it. Not with fear, not with anger, but with that same quiet voice that had gotten me this far. No. And now, finally, yes. To me. I've stopped looking at the mailbox like it might carry bad news, stopped bracing for phone calls, for envelopes with seals, for the sound of tires on gravel that don't belong. The world is quieter now, not because people stopped coming, but because I stopped waiting. It's a different kind of silence, not empty, but selective, like a room where only things you love are allowed to stay. I kept the old photographs, not out of nostalgia, but precision, to remember what was, not what I wished it had been. Tyler as a boy with jelly on his chin, David in the garden, sleeves rolled, skin brown from sun. One photo of the three of us, crooked smiles, shadows across our faces. I put that one in the drawer, not to hide it, just to give it rest. The living room feels more like mine now, not because I redecorated, I didn't, but because I know every chair was chosen, every blanket folded by a woman who made decisions for herself. I've started writing again, not memoirs, not yet. Just little things. Thoughts in the margins of books, phrases on the back of grocery lists. I wrote once, years ago, when David was still here and Tyler was off at school, and I had hours in the middle of the day that didn't belong to anyone. Back then, I thought I had to fill those hours with usefulness. Now I know I just had to make them mine. Lila brings me small notebooks now, soft covers, blank pages. I fill them with quiet sentences, sometimes about the weather. Sometimes about the taste of early morning coffee. Sometimes just about the things I didn't say when I was younger, like how afraid I was to be seen as difficult, how long I let people call me generous when what they meant was available, how easy it is, sometimes, to mistake silence for peace. There's a small scar on my left wrist. Got it 30 years ago, trying to open a rusted garden gate. It never fully faded. I used to rub it without thinking, like it held some kind of memory I couldn't quite unlock. Now I see it clearly. I was trying to open something that didn't want to be opened, and I forced it. And I got hurt. Some gates aren't for you. Some doors are better left closed, and some people, even if they share your name, don't get to keep your trust. I don't hate Tyler. I want that to be clear. I'm not writing this with poison in my pen. I wish him clarity. I wish him the kind of reckoning I had to find alone, the kind that forces you to see who you are without your excuses. But I will not wait for it. I've waited long enough. The house needs new paint. The porch steps creak. The kitchen light flickers sometimes when it rains. But I'm still here. Still Maybelline Ruth Hargreaves. Still whole. And finally, unmistakably, still mine. The thing about survival is, it's quieter than you think. It's not a declaration. It's not a firework. It's not even a speech. It's the sound of a woman rising in the morning and pouring coffee into a clean cup. It's the smell of toast. The squeak of the back screen door as it swings open, then closed. It's the way her hands move, slow, certain, over her own kitchen counters. I used to think survival meant outliving something terrible. Now I think it just means staying true long enough that the lies give up first. On Sunday, I ironed my church dress for the first time in months. Navy blue with the white buttons. Not because I was expected, not because I wanted to show anyone anything, but because I missed sitting in a room with quiet people and old wood and the smell of old hymnals. I missed the way we used to sing off key and nobody cared. Nancy waved when I walked in. Her eyes widened just enough to say, "Well, look at you." I nodded, sat near the window, let the sunlight hit my shoulder without apology. After the service, someone asked about Tyler. I smiled and said, "He's fine, I'm sure." And I didn't say more, because not all truths need to be shared out loud. Some are better left folded between the pages of a well-read book. They don't rot, they don't fade, but they stay quiet, for your own sake, not theirs. Later that afternoon, I walked through the rooms of my house and spoke to them. Not out loud, just softly in my mind. We made it. You stayed with me. We're all right now. There's something sacred in staying, in not giving up your place just because someone else tried to write you out of it. I started a new binder, labeled it in pen, "Everything they'll need later." Not because I expect to go soon, but because I want the right people to find the right things when the time comes. I put the deed in there, the trust papers, the new will, and a letter. Just one. It's not addressed to Tyler, it's addressed to Lila. If you're reading this, it means the house is yours now, or maybe it's already been sold. That part doesn't matter. What matters is you never forget how you got it. Not because you earned it, not because you asked for it, but because you stayed close with clean hands and an honest heart. You listened. And that, child, is rarer than gold. Don't let the world turn you hard. Don't let them tell you that kind is weak. I was not weak. I was kind, and I was clear, and I was strong when it counted. You will be too. I tucked the letter behind the folder tab. Then I poured a glass of cold water and sat on the porch while the wind moved through the trees like it knew its own name. In the distance, a neighbor's dog barked twice and fell quiet. Children rode past on bicycles, one of them singing under his breath. I didn't catch the tune, but I caught the rhythm. Bright, offbeat, alive. I don't know what Tyler will do next. I don't need to know. I've outlived storms, betrayals, and my own doubts. I don't need closure from him. Because the door I closed wasn't just on a scheme. It was on the part of me that waited for someone else to explain who I was. And now, there is no waiting. There is only this: a woman in her home, a wind that does not shake the walls, and a voice, firm and unshaken, that no one else gets to rewrite.